Hi, you guys. How you all doing? I can hear the birds. I know you probably can too. I asked Dave to shut that door, and I think he forgot. Doing good. Good. I just made tea. Glad we're all doing all right. We got a new. We got a new. We got a new book now. Hopefully everybody's geared up. Halfway through a book, started a book, finished a book. That sounds about right. How am I? I'm well, I think. Still looking for a new job. Minty's out of her collar, so she's running around totally free, which is great. She's doing fine, nice and healed up. Yeah. For a second, I thought that said colorless, and I was like, that's kind of right. She's like gray, shades of gray. Hello, Denny. Glad you're here. Freedom for Minty. Yep, she's doing great. No, it's okay. I just thought for a second, I thought it was lacking another L. It was more of a vision thing than a use spelling thing. But first I only saw one L, and I was like, colorless. Yeah, I mean, kind of. And I got there. I got there in the end. That's all that matters. Spelling is hard. Yeah. Fair. Hey, Kalika, how you doing? Everybody's filtering in here. Swift Blood. Nice. Hi, how are you doing? You slept through your alarm a little. Hey, you're still here. Emmy will be late, but not by much. Well, Corey's here. Swiftblood's here. Ray's here. Crimson's here. We got most of the crew pretty good. Lots of sewing this week. I still have to finish this wig. I did as much as I could, and then I ran out of hair rollers. And now I have to get more hair rollers. Which is not something that I just have around my house. So I gotta... It's a whole thing. Yeah, this is the whole wig. And I'm still not finished. And that's like 40 rollers in there or something. I got a large package. I thought that would be enough. It's not. It's not. It's not. All this effort, and I'm gonna cover it. Never mind. It's just. No, I'm not. I'm not from the 60s. Hopefully I don't look like I'm from the 60s. I know I don't look fantastic for my age, but hopefully I don't look quite that dated. No, gotta be perfect whether or not it's seen mentally. Yeah, no, I gotta legitimately, it has to look good in the back. Yeah. You know the cosplayer thing of like, I never worry about the back of my wig. No, I worry about the whole thing. It's gotta be good. It's gotta be good. If I'm not confident leaving my house in it, I'm not confident enough to put it on TikTok either, which is my big fallback as a creator, I think. Because I don't crank out content like other people, because I want it. I'm like, not to say that other. I want it to look like a fucking movie. It's more me overcompensating than other people not putting out quality content. Is I'm like, I'm gonna make a fucking movie. It's like 30 seconds long. I don't need to do that. I don't need to. I want to. I want to do that. Because I just want to. I want it to be good for me. And also you, but mostly me. I do it because it's fun and I'm weird about perfection. Aren't we all, though? Aren't we all a little bit? It's fine if other people aren't perfect. It's not fine if we're perfect. That kind of mentality. Which I know is not great for me. But I like making things. Dave came in earlier today and was like, and I'm not going to name the creator. I don't even think I could if you paid me. Like, gun to my head, I could not name this creator because I have no idea. I know I've caught glimpses of him from what he's shown me, but he was like talking about this creator that does like 3D prints. And he was like, he's saying he made all this. I know what kind of Nerf gun that is. That's not a 3D print. That's a Nerf gun. And he's like, am I being petty? And I'm like, I don't think so. I think you're being like offended on behalf of your craft is what I said. And I was like, I'll see that with crochet patterns all the time where people will leave stuff out of their patterns that I know they've left out. I can see by looking at the finished product. And I'm like, you left that out purposely so you'd be the only one with the finished product that looks well kind of deal. And I'm like, I know you did that. And I'm like, it's the same level of, you know, reminds me of the granny square thing. It's not quite the granny square thing. It is very similar. But yeah, it's just, I know how you made it. And I know you're selling it for more than you need to make it, which is fine. Make your profit. A little bit of a good overhead on that profit, maybe. But, like, make your profit. That's not against the law. It's just if I know I have, like, how to do it, I'm going to just do it myself. I'm going to just do it myself for $50 or less, depending on the material I want to use. And that's not even using, it's not like I'm using like Red Heart or something stiff. It's just, okay, that's the deal. Is I'm not even using like a bad quality yarn to do it under that much. I know I can do it for under that much. And I know it's probably because it's a lot of labor on your part to crank out probably the amount that you're making, maybe. But still, I'm like, making quite of an overhead on that. Like, making a lot of overhead. That reminds me of that. Hence why no one has got their crochet bats they were supposed to get for Halloween. Yeah. Oh, man. I should crochet a bunch of little bats. Oh, man. No, don't text me. No, who are you? Stop that. Go away. Okay, sorry. Someone texted me, and I don't care. Regardless, if anybody has no other small talk, maybe we should go ahead and get into it, because we're on a new book. We finished. You need to go to the yarn store. So do I. Anyway, I went to Michael's like the other week to get caulk and mineral spirits so I could work on this wig, and I didn't get the yarn I needed. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, new book. We finished book 5 of the Peregrine series, which means we're technically on the last book of the series. So this is the 6th installment, and she's girthy. She's large, a lot of content, a lot of things, and technically, because we also do still have Tales of the Peculiar, which I thought, but that'll be a quick run through, pretty much. We might only spend like maybe 2 or 3 weeks on Tales of the Peculiar if you want to read that one afterward. So technically, this is not the last one, but there's a spin-off. So I might not be in chat all night. Oh, we'll miss you, Swiftblood. So, but I thought we would also run through Tales of the Peculiar if you guys are up for it. But this is the last actual installment of the series, The Desolations of Devil's Acre. So, we'll have quite a bit to run through of this book, but like I said last time, we're going to go ahead and open the polls again. If you all have a recommendation for a good series that you would like for me, I like the name of it too, that you would like for me to read next time after we finish this series, you can go ahead and drop it in the Discord. Once I narrow them down a little bit, we will go ahead and make a poll for people to vote. Now, I will be vetting the books that you all recommend, as much as I can anyway. I'm going to vet them, so let's make sure that they are as publicly accessible for people as possible. That means, no hard triggers, nothing unfit for a younger audience in case they step in here. I like to make this as welcome of a live as possible. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's limited to like young adult novels, but it's also like nothing terribly egregious. If there is something egregious, but it's within a certain parameter, like obviously the Peculiar series has violence in it. That's fine. I don't think it's not so grotesque that we need to have a warning before every single chapter. But especially if there is any spicy content or otherwise, we probably will not be considered unless it is, if it's romantic in a sense, like there's a little bit of romance in this book, that's fine. No hardcore like assault or anything like that. No heavy triggers for people that I would need, I don't want to worry about giving anybody an existential crisis or a mentee B. So, length limit or minimum. There is no real length limit or minimum. I mean, obviously, this has been 6 books long. I'm not afraid of a lengthy series. I'll read a lengthy series if it's good. I'll read a lengthy series if it's appropriate. Hell, I'll read it for you guys even if I hate it. But if I think other people will enjoy it, I'll read it for you guys. I don't care. Just make sure that it is within the parameters given, something accessible for a large audience. I don't want to have to, because there's some things like I probably wouldn't read for TikTok, whether, due to like horror aspects. I love horror novels, but I've never read The Troop, You got some ideas? Excellent. Good. Well, we will iron that out during the run of Desolation of Devil's Acre. This is the final book in this Peregrine series by Ransom Riggs, and if you haven't gotten the series yet, I highly suggest that you do, especially for this one, because I got some good news for you guys. For any of my homies who like a map, this is a cool map, but it's large and it's so detailed and so small that I don't really think showing it on here is going to do it justice. But it's a great map. It spans 2 pages. They're so tiny though, and it has all the landmarks. So very tiny, but it's worth it just for the map. I really like the header at the top. It is rated 5 boils. So Devil's Acre is 5 boils out of who knows how many are possible. But 5 boils nonetheless. It is also the capital of cholera, in case you're wondering. You're still awake? Jeez. I hope you're okay. Anyway, so for all the people that enjoy a map, it's a really cool looking map. It's also very intricate, so I highly suggest you check out the book from your local library. Give Ransom Riggs the money. Go look it up. Great author. Good book. Didn't even know it had a map. Yes, it has a map. And you know me. I love a good map. So I'll take a moment to appreciate that. And if you all want to go ahead and recap, we didn't end super great last time. Just so you're aware, Nor and Jacob are separated from the rest of the group. They got a great idea to go and get some of Nor's stuff after everything's sort of calmed down. Miss Peregrine, all the others are safe. The Whites did get the Alpha Skull, but they didn't have Miss Peregrine, so everybody just sort of relaxed because they knew Miss Peregrine was safe. And with that, Nor and Jacob decided that they were going to go pick up some of Nor's stuff back at her home. So they took off on a little trip, didn't really notify anybody. Feels like you should let someone know when you're going on a road trip. But, they thought it was going to be a quick one-way hour, 2-hour trip. And in the course of that, found a little postcard left at Nor's home, at her foster home. And it was from V, the woman they were looking for, Nor's mom, quote unquote. So they thought they were just going to take a little road trip, go up to see V, and instead got into a whole mess. There's a loop in the middle of a devastating tornado, and 2 devastating tornadoes, and we did not fare so well because we led a bunch of Whites right to the Mother of Storms, which was the actual ingredient that the Whites needed. And they cut out I can never say her name right. They cut out V's heart. We're trapped in a loop, in a collapsing loop with 2 tornadoes, and it's not looking good, folks. So with that, I'm going to take a little bit of tea. And we're going to go ahead and start the book. Who's Zeus? All right. We all ready? 2. All right. Well, with that, Chapter 1. For a long time, there is only darkness and the sound of distant thunder and the hazy sensation of falling. Beyond that, I have no self, no name, no memory. I am aware dimly that I used to have these things, but now they are gone, and I am nearly nothing. A single photon of failing light circling a hungry void. It won't be long now. I've lost my soul, I'm afraid, but I can't remember how. All I can recall are slow, churning cracks of thunder, and within them the syllables of my name, whatever it used to be, drawn out until unrecognizable. That and the dark are all there is for a long time, until another sound joins the thunder. Wind. Then rain, too. There is wind and thunder and rain and falling. Something is coming into being, one sensation at a time. I am rising from the trench, escaping the void. My single photon becomes a flashing cluster. I feel something rough against my face. I hear the creaking of ropes, the flap of something caught in the wind. Perhaps I'm on a boat. trapped in the lightless belly of some storm-tossed ship. One eye blinks open. Forms thrash dimly above me, a row of swinging pendulums. Overwound clocks all out of sync, groaning, gears about to break. I blink and the pendulums become bodies dropped from a gallows, kicking and twisting. I find I can turn my head. Blurred shapes begin to resolve. Rough green fabric against my face. Above me, the tick-tocking bodies have become a row of storm-blown plants swinging from the rafters in creaky wicker baskets. Behind them, a wall of insect screens, shutters, and flaps. I'm lying on a porch, on the rough green floor of a porch. I know this porch. I know this floor. Farther away, a rain-whipped lawn terminates at a dark wall of genuflecting palms. I know that lawn. I know those palms. How long have I been here? How many years? Time is playing tricks again. I try to move my body, but can only rotate my head. My eyes flick to a card table and 2 folding chairs. I'm suddenly certain that if I could persuade my body to rise, I would find a pair of reading glasses on the table, a half-finished game of Monopoly, a mug of steaming, still-hot coffee. Someone has just been here. Words have just been spoken. They hang in the air still, returning to me in echoes. What kind of bird? A boy's voice. My voice. A big hawk who smoked a pipe. This one gravelly, accented, an old man's voice. You must think I'm pretty dumb, the boy replies. I would never think that about you. The boy again. But why did the monsters want to hurt you? A scrape as the old man pushes back his chair and rises. He's going to get something he wants to show me, he says. Some pictures. How long ago was that? A minute? An hour? I have to get up or he'll worry. He'll think I'm playing a trick on him, and he doesn't like tricks. Once, as a game, I hid from him in the woods, and when he couldn't find me, he got so angry he turned red and yelled bad words. Later, he said it was because he was scared, but he wouldn't tell me what had scared him. It is raining ferociously. This storm is an angry, living thing, and it's already torn a gash in the screen, which thrashes like a flag in a gale. Something is wrong with me. I push up onto my elbow, but that is all I can manage. I notice a strange black mark on the floor, a burned line that tracks around me, tracing the outline of my body. I try to push myself up fully to sitting. Dark orbs swim in my vision. Then a giant crash. Everything goes blinding white. So bright, so close, so loud. It sounded like an explosion, but it wasn't. It's lightning. The strike just outside, so near that the flash and the thunderclap are simultaneous. And now I am sitting upright, heart hammering. I hold a trembling hand before my eyes. The hand looks weird. It's too big. The fingers are too long. Black hairs sprout between the knuckles. Where's the boy? Am I not the boy? I don't like tricks. Tender red lines encircle the wrist. Handcuffs latched to a porch rail in a storm. I can see the tabletop, and it's empty. There is no coffee cup. There are no glasses. He isn't coming back. But then, impossibly, he does. He's there, outside, at the edge of the woods, my grandfather, walking in the tall grass, back bent against the wind, his yellow raincoat vivid against the dark palms, and his hood pulled low to shield his eyes from the stinging rain. What's he doing out there? Why isn't he coming in? He stops, peers down at something in the too tall grass. I raise my hand, call his name. His back straightens, and only then do I realize he's all wrong. His frame too narrow, his walk too smooth for an old man with arthritic hips. Because it isn't him. He jogs toward me, toward the house, to the torn and flapping screen. The storm didn't do that. What kind of monsters? Hunched and awful, with rotting skin and black eyes and squirming. I'm on my feet as he throws open the screen door and fills the threshold. Who are you? He asks. His voice is flat, tense. He pulls back the hood of his raincoat. He is middle-aged, his sharp chin accented by a trim red beard, eyes masked behind sunglasses. It's such a foreign experience to be in the presence of another person and standing on 2 feet that I hardly register the strangeness of his wearing sunglasses in a rainstorm. Automatically, I answered. Jacob, I say, and only after hearing it out loud does it sound wrong. I'm the realtor, he says, but I know it's a lie. I came to board up the windows for the storm. You're a little late for that, I said. He enters slowly, as if approaching a skittish animal. The screen door hisses closed. He glanced at the burn mark on the floor, then returns his cold gaze to me. You're him, he says, fingers grazing the card table as he clomps toward me in heavy black boots. Jacob Portman. My name, my actual name. Something bubbles up from the trench, from the dark. A horrible mouth formed in spiraling clouds, thundering my name. A girl, raven-haired and beautiful, next to me screaming. I believe you were acquainted with a friend of mine, the man says. There is venom in his smile. He went by many names, but you knew him as Dr. Golan. The horrible cloud mouth, a woman writhing in the grass. The images surge into my mind with sudden blunt force. I shuffle backward until I hit a sliding glass door. The man is removing something from his pocket as he comes forward, a small black box with metal fangs. Turn around, he commands. I'm suddenly aware that there is a great deal at risk and that I need to defend myself. So I make myself docile, raise my hands as if in surrender, and when he comes close, I bring my fist down on his face. He shouts as his glasses fly off. The eyes behind them are shining, blank eggs burrowed into his skull, and they have murder in them. There's a loud snap as blue light arcs between the fangs and his black box. He throws himself at me. I feel a shock, a singe, as he tasers me through my shirt, and I fly back against the glass door. Somehow, it doesn't shatter. He's on top of me. I hear the whine of the taser recycling. I try to fling him off, but I am still recharging, too, and still weak. Pain rockets through my shoulder, my head, and then he jerks and lets out a scream and goes limp, and I feel something warm running down my back. I'm bleeding. Am I bleeding? The man grasps at something and falls away from me. The something has a bronze hilt and protrudes 6 inches from his neck. And now there is a strange new darkness behind him, a living shadow, and out of it flashes a hand that picks up my grandfather's heavy ashtray and smashes the man in the head with it. He groans and collapses. A girl steps out of the shadow. The girl, the one from before, long black hair tangled and wet with rain, long black coat smeared with earth, deep black eyes, wide and fearful, searching my face and then sparking with recognition. And though all the pieces haven't surfaced yet, and though my mind is reeling, I know that what's happening is a miracle, that we are alive and we are here and not in the other place. My God. Such horrors I can hardly name them. The girl is on the floor with me now, kneeling and embracing me. My arms encircle her neck like a life preserver. Her body is so cold, and I can feel her trembling as we hold on to one another. Without slackening, she says my name, repeats it again and again, and with each reprise, the now gains an ounce more weight, grows more solid. Jacob! Jacob, can you remember me? The man on the floor groans. The aluminum bones of the porch screen groan, and the storm, the angry weather we seem to have brought with us from the other place, groans too. And I begin to remember. Noor, I say. Noor. You're Noor. In a flash, it all came to me. We had survived, had escaped V's collapsing loop, and now we were in Florida, on the green astroturf of my grandfather's porch, in the present. Shock. I think I was still in shock. We huddled together on the floor, gripping one another as the storm raged, until the tremors racking our bodies began to subside. The man in the yellow raincoat lay unmoving, save the diminishing rise and fall of his chest. Blood soaked the astroturf around him in a sticky pool. The bronze handle of the weapon Noor had stabbed him with protruded from his neck. That was my grandfather's letter opener, I said. And this was his house. Your grandfather. She pulled away just far enough to look at me. Who lived in Florida? I nodded. Thunder cracked, rattled the walls. Noor was looking around, shaking her head doubtfully. This can't be real. I knew just how she felt. How? She said. I gestured to the burned outline on the floor. I woke up there. No idea how long I was out for, or what day it is, even. Noor rubbed her eyes. My head's all fuzzy. Everything's out of order. What's the last thing you remember? She frowned, concentrating. We went to my old apartment, and then we were driving. She spoke slowly as if piecing together a dream. And we were in a loop. We found V's loop. And we were running from a storm. No, a tornado. 2 tornadoes, wasn't it? And then we found her, didn't we? We found her. Her hands grabbed mine and squeezed. And then her hands went slack, her face blank, her lips parted, but no words came. The horrors were returning, crashing over her. Over me, too. Murnau, knife in hand, crouched above V in the grass, his arm raised in triumph as he ran toward the whirling maelstrom. Heat flooded my chest, blocked my breathing for a moment. Nor buried her face between her knees and began to rock. "Oh my God," she moaned. "Oh God, oh God, oh God." I thought she might dissolve before my eyes, or burst into flame, or suck the light from the room. But after a moment, she jerked her head up. "Why aren't we dead?" A shudder rattled through me, involuntary. Maybe we are. For all I knew, we'd been crushed by V's collapsing loop, just as Call had intended. Nor herself seemed the only concrete evidence that what I was experiencing now was more than just some purgatorial memory hole, the last gasp fireworks of a dying brain. No, I chased away the thought. We were here, and we were alive. "She got us out, somehow," I said. "Got us here. There's some kind of emergency exit. An eject button." Nor was nodding and kneading her hands. "It's the only explanation." To my grandfather's house, the home of her mentor, her boss. He trained her, worked side by side with her. It made enough sense. What made no sense was that there wasn't a loop here. So how had she done it? "If she got us out," Nora said, "maybe she got herself out too." There was hope in her voice, but it was manic, balanced on a knife's edge. "She could be here, and she could still be..." She couldn't quite bring herself to say it. "Alive." "He took her heart," I said quietly. "You can live without a heart. For a little while, anyway." She waved her hand. The hand was shaking. We had only just regained our grip on reality, and already she was losing it again. Come on, we have to look," she was saying, already on her feet, words coming rapid fire. "If there's any chance at all, then we have to..." "Wait a second, we don't know what's in there," I meant to say, waiting for us. But she had already run into the darkened house. I planted a hand against the wall and wobbled up to standing. Nor was fraying, and I couldn't let her out of my sight. She had used this wild hope that V might be alive to shore herself up, to shove away the despair that threatened to crush her. But I worried it would only be doubly crushing when she was inevitably disappointed, and I could not let Nur Pradesh break. If Murnau's vile task had succeeded, if what I had seen materialized in that tornado was real, Call's face in the whirling clouds, his voice splitting the air, if he was well and truly back, then the prophecy's most terrifying predictions had started coming true, which meant that all peculiardom was about to be buried. God only knew what Call was capable of now that he had consumed one of the most powerful jars from the Library of Souls, then been crushed in its collapse and resurrected. Born again. I am become death, destroyer of worlds. However bad it was or would be, I knew one thing. The world needed Nur Pradesh. She was one of the seven, one of the peculiars whose coming was foretold, who could emancipate peculiar kind from Call, who could seal the door. To what? Hell? And as bizarre as it all sounded, it was no more bizarre than the parts of the Revelator's prophecy that had already come to pass. I was finished doubting it, finished doubting my own eyes, too. This was no dream, nor the last reverie of a dying mind. I was even more certain of it as I tripped over the track of the sliding door into the living room. The house was just as my friends and I had left it last time I'd been here, a few weeks ago. Hastily neatened and mostly empty, the books my father hadn't thrown away placed back onto shelves, trash that had littered the floor stuffed into black plastic bags. The air was stale and suffocating. Nor pinballed from corner to corner looking for V. She tore a dust sheet off the couch, then flung herself over the back to look behind it. I caught her at the window, started to say, "Nor, wait," when a crack of thunder cut me off and made us both jump. We looked out through the rain-blurred glass. The yard was strewn with trash. The houses across the cul-de-sac were shuttered and dark. A dead neighborhood. And still, "That white probably had friends," I said. "More could come any minute." "Let them come." Her eyes were shards of ice. "I'm not leaving until we search every room, every broom closet." I nodded. "Me neither." There was no one in the bedroom, no one under the bed. It felt silly to get down on our knees and look like kids checking for the boogeyman, but I did it anyway. There was a rectangular impression in the carpet where my grandfather had kept his old cigar box, the one I'd found after he died, filled with the snapshots that would forever change the course of my life. But there was no V, dead or alive. Not in the closet, not in the bathroom, where Nor tore back the shower curtain to find only a bar of withered soap. There was nothing in the guest bedroom but a stack of unused moving boxes and spots of blackening mildew on the carpet. I could feel Nor's desperation mounting. By the time we came to the garage, she was calling out for V, which was killing me, splitting my heart by the seams. I flipped on the lights. Our eyes scanned a jumble of discarded junk and fix-it projects my grandfather never finished. 2 ladders, each missing a step, a boxy old television with a cracked screen, coils of wire and rope. My grandfather's workbench, piled with tools and woodworking magazines. I saw my ghost and his there, shoulder to shoulder, under the pooled light of a gooseneck lamp, stringing red yarn across a map with pushpins. The boy thinking all the while it was only a game, a story. The storm's shifting pressure rattled the garage door, jolting me back into the present. I saw my grandfather's gun cabinet, the only thing in the garage large enough to conceal a person. Nor moved first, got there before me, and yanked the handles. The doors popped open an inch, and then a chain pulled taut. Someone, almost certainly my dad, had padlocked the cabinet. Through the crack we could see a row of oiled rifle barrels, the weapons that might have saved my grandfather had I not taken the key. Nor drew her head back in surprise, then turned without speaking and ran into the house. I chased her to my grandfather's office, the only room we hadn't searched yet, the room where Olive had stomped her feet to find a hollow-sounding spot, then rolled back the rug to discover a door in the floor and a bunker below it. A bunker that V probably knew about and might have even known the code to enter. Eva wins today. Eva wins the comment. I tried to tell Nor to shout above the storm's rising roar and Nor's own shouts. "Are you here? Mama, where are you?" But she couldn't hear me and wasn't looking. Was shoving aside Abe's empty desk and running to bang open the tiny closet. So I gave up and wrestled back the heavy carpet on my own and tried to remember where the hinged floor panel was, but I was too frantic and couldn't seem to find it. There was no V in the room. I decided there was no V down in the bunker either. I couldn't imagine her escaping here only to shelter in the bunker and shut us out. So when Nora ran out of the room, I stood up and chased after her. I found her still as a statue in the middle of the living room, breathing hard but focused. She beckoned me closer. "What if we all came through together?" she said quietly, her eyes locked on a point in space at the edge of the room. "And we were the same distances apart that we'd been on V's porch." She raised her arm. "There. That's where I woke up." She was pointing at the corner where my grandfather's worn recliner sat. On the floor beside it was a burned outline, vaguely Nor-shaped. "And you woke up there." She pointed through the door to the screened porch where my burned outline was disappearing under a spreading pool of the white's blood. "That's exactly how far apart we were on V's porch. You were handcuffed to the rail over there, and I was over there." I felt a spark, a quickening. And V was out in the grass. We both looked up at once, our eyes darting to the flapping porch screen, the overgrown yard, the tall grass by the woods where the man in the yellow raincoat had paused and looked down. "Right there," I whispered. Our bodies unlocked. Together we bolted out into the storm. Chapter 2. V's body looked like it had been swallowed by the earth and spat out again. She lay twisted in the grass like a tossed-away doll, arms splayed cartoonishly and legs tangled beneath her. Her gray hair was knotted and clotted with mud. Her red cardigan and black dress soaked with blood and rain. She'd lost a boot, and the patched woolen sock on her unshod foot made me think incongruously of the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz, the one who gets pancaked under Dorothy's house. I locked my focus there on what I remembered of that old acid trip of a movie, on the worn toe of V's striped sock, so it wouldn't wander north. How many times had she patched that sock? To the dark hole in V's chest? A thing. She's just a thing now. To an open mouth, pooling with rain. There's no place like home. Nor was crying. Her head was bent forward, hair covering her face, but I could see her chest heaving. I tried to put my arms around her, but she wrenched away suddenly. "I did this," she whispered. "It's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault." "It's not," I said. I tried again to wrap my arms around her, and this time she let me. "It isn't." Yes, it is," she whispered. I held her tighter, tighter. Her body shook. "She was safe in that loop for so many years. And then I led that man to her. Let him in. Let him right past all her defenses." You didn't know. There's no way you could have known. And now she's dead. Because of me, she's dead. Because of us, I thought. Though I would never have said it, I had to kill this poisonous idea before it took root, or it would destroy her. I knew it from experience. A similar poison had infected me. You can't think that way. It's not true. I tried to sound calm, reasonable, but it was hard when V's body lay a few feet away in the grass. I only just found her. God, I only just found her again. Her voice was cracking. It wasn't your fault. Stop saying that. She pushed away suddenly, shoved me back to an arm's length, then softer. It makes me want to die. Suddenly bereft of words, I nodded. Okay. Rain stung our faces, dripped off our chins. The house had started to groan. I need a minute, she said. We should get her inside. I need a minute, she said again. I gave it to her, got up and walked to the edge of the trees, bent forward against the gale, trying not to think about how stupid it was to be standing outside in a hurricane. Thought instead of my grandfather, of how he had died and where, just through these woods, the strange mirroring of his body and his protégé's. I had only seen my grandfather cry once, but I knew this would have made him weep. He'd flared through my chest, my bones. I could almost see his ghost now, gleaming through the black and shuddering trees. Could almost hear him moaning. Velia, not you two. I turned back to look. Nora was kneeling beside the body, wiping mud from V's face, straightening her twisted limbs. Nora, who had only found V only to lose her again, who would surely and forever blame herself, no matter how I reasoned with her. But if it was her fault, it was equally mine. We had been fooled, had let ourselves be tricked. V had surely missed her adopted daughter, but she had never, for the sake of Nora's own safety, tried to see her again. I remembered her greeting when we found her. What the hell are you doing here? Our mistake had cost V her life, and I feared it had resurrected a demon. We had much to atone for, and little time to grieve. A gust of wind nearly knocked me over. There was a screech and then a sharp crack from the next yard, and I swung my head around to see part of the neighbor's roof peel away. When I looked back at Nora, she was still kneeling, head tilted as if in prayer. Just 1 minute, I told myself. Just give her 1 minute more. It might be her only chance to say goodbye. Or I'm sorry. I didn't know what the future held, whether we'd have a chance to bury V, to hold a funeral. Just 1 minute more, and maybe Nora would be able to make some measure of peace with this, or at least keep herself from drowning in poison. And then we'd be able to... What? I had been so consumed with the terrors and tragedies of the present moment that I had not yet thought beyond them. We had to cover V's body, bring her inside, had to warn our friends and allies, had to reach them, if call had not already. There were 1,000 terrors clawing at the edge of my mind, but I couldn't afford to let them in yet. Nor had gone still. The storm was worsening. I couldn't wait any longer. I'd only taken a few steps toward her when it felt like something punched me in the stomach, and I staggered and fell to my knees. Struggling to draw breath, I searched the grass for the object that had struck me, but there was nothing. And then I gasped as fresh pain bloomed in my midsection and raced down both legs. I know this pain. "What happened? Are you hurt?" Nor was bending over me, tilting my head up. I tried to speak, but it came out as a mumble. My mind was on the thing that had hit me, which wasn't a thing at all, I realized, but a feeling. And now some dynamo in my gut that had been still was spinning again, and it compelled me to turn and look into the woods. "What is it?" Noor said. I got a sudden flash, rotting, black-eyed, built like a monstrous spider, crashing through the bracken toward us. "The man in yellow," I said hoarsely, my heart thudding as my eyes searched the trees. "What about him?" It had felt him go, felt its master die. "He wasn't alone." My mind went to the gun safe in the garage, but it was locked, chained tight, just as useless to us now as it had been to my grandfather on the night he died. There was only one option left, other than running, which was useless, or facing it here in the yard with no weapons, which was idiotic. "My grandfather had a bunker," I said, already on my feet and pulling Noor toward the porch. "In the office, under the floor." Halfway to the porch, she planted her feet and pulled us to a stop. "Not without her." She meant V. "There's a hologast in the woods." I realized I hadn't actually said the word, named the threat. I tried to pull her onward, but she would not be moved. "I've seen what they do to people like us, especially dead ones. They already took out her heart. I won't let them take her eyes, too." She wasn't shaking, wasn't manic. I could see there would be no arguing. Noor took V's arms, and I took her legs. V was not a large woman, but her sodden body felt weighted down with stones. We struggled to the porch and hefted her past the unmoving white into the house, leaving a drip trail of mud behind us. We set her down by the pulled-back rug in the office. I could feel my inner compass ticking back and forth, trying hard to pinpoint the location of a hollow I hadn't yet seen with my eyes. All I knew for certain was that it was coming, and it was angry. I could feel that anger like pricks from a hot knife. I dropped to my knees and pounded the floorboards until an echo answered my fist. Then asked Noor to find me something to pry the hatch door with while I ran my palms across the boards. I found the disguised hinge just as she returned, holding the bloody bronze-handled letter opener, which only moments ago had been buried in the neck of a dead white. I could almost hear Miss Peregrine's voice say, "What an endlessly useful little doodah," as I stuck it into the thin gap and pried up a 3-foot section of floorboards. Underneath was the armored bunker door. Noor expressed no surprise at any of it. V had her own secret time loop. Compared to that, an underground bunker must have seemed like a foregone conclusion. The bunker door was locked with an alphanumeric keypad. I started to punch in the code, but just like that, my mind went blank. "You're not typing," Noor pointed out. I stared at the pad. It's not a birthday, it's a word." Noor raked a hand down the side of her face. I shut my eyes, tapped my head. It's a word I know. The compass needle wobbled, then steadied. I could feel the hollow tearing through the woods, nearly out of them now. I stared until the keypad began to blur. It was in Polish. Little something. Please, for God's sake, hurry, Nora said through her teeth. I'll be right back. She left and came back a moment later with the dark brown comforter from my grandfather's bed. She settled it over V's body. Tiger, little tiger, that's what he used to call me, but what's the word in Polish? Nor rolled V over, wrapped her in the blanket, a mummy in a microfiber shroud. And then it came to me, and my fingers stabbed the keys. T, Y, G, R, Y, S, K, U. And the lock tumbled open. I could breathe again. I swung back the heavy door, and it banged like a gunshot against the floor. Thank God, Nor sighed. A ladder descended into darkness. We slid V's shrouded body to the edge. I climbed down 3 rungs, one arm wrapped around her calves, but she was too heavy to carry down by myself, and there was no time to lower her gently into the bunker tunnel with the 2 of us inching downward, rung by rung. A loud metallic groan came from the porch, which might have been the wind tearing the screens away, or a hollow. We've just got to drop her, I said. I'm sorry. Nor didn't reply, just nodded. She drew a deep breath. I silently apologized to V for what was about to happen, then let her slip from my arms into the dark. There was a loud crack of bones breaking as she landed. Nor winced, and I suppressed a shudder, and then we climbed down after her. Nor pulled the hatch door closed above us. It shut with a reverberating clang and locked automatically, and we were engulfed in dark. Crashes echoed from the other side, and we heard a howl that was definitely not the wind. I climbed the rest of the way down the ladder, stumbled over V's body, and ran my hands along the rough concrete wall until I found a light switch. Green fluorescence built into the walls flickered on. Thankfully, we still had power despite the storm. Knowing my grandfather, the bunker was connected to a backup generator somewhere. A crash from inside the house echoed off the tunnel walls. So, this place is hollow-proof? Nora asked, looking up at the hatch. Supposed to be. Was that ever tested? The hollow started pounding on the hatch, the sound like a bell ringing dully. I'm sure it was. A lie. If the Whites had ever found out where Grandpa Portman lived, before last year, that is, he'd have had to move his family, go into hiding, and never come back. Which meant the integrity of this 40-year-old bunker was being tested for the first time right now. But let's get away from that door, I said, just in case. The command center at the heart of the bunker was, as I remembered it, 20 feet from end to end, bunk bed against one wall, military-issue supply locker against the other, a chemical toilet, a hulking old teleprinter machine atop a hulking wooden desk. The room's most obvious feature was a periscope that hung down by a cylindrical tube from the ceiling, identical to the one in V's house. Even through the thick hatch door and down the long concrete tunnel to this underground room, sounds of destruction from above echoed vividly. The hollow was on a rampage. I tried not to think about what it was doing to the house, or what it would do to us if given the chance. I didn't have a lot of faith in my hollow taming abilities at present. Our best chance at survival was to stay away from it. I felt strangely superstitious, too, about trying to fight a hologast here, in the very place my grandfather had been killed by one. Like it would be tempting fate.
All I see is tall grass.
Nora had put her face to the periscope and was turning a slow circle.
Your grandfather's surveillance system doesn't work because nobody bothered to mow the lawn.
She pulled her face away and looked at me.
We can't stay down here.
Well, we can't go up there, I replied. That hollow would turn us inside out.
Not if we find something to kill it with.
She went to the supply locker and opened the door, revealing shelves of neatly stacked survival gear, food and medical supplies. Nothing deadly. There aren't any weapons down here. I've looked. She was excavating the locker anyway, taking a shelf of tinned food onto the floor with a clatter.
There was an NRA convention's worth of guns in the garage. How can there be none in your grandfather's survival bunker?
I don't know, but there aren't. I went to help her, though I knew it was pointless. I shoved aside a stack of mission logs, procedural manuals, and other books to look behind them.
What the hell?
Having searched every corner of the locker, she turned her back on it and threw a can of beans across the floor.
Whatever. We still can't stay down here.
She had remained remarkably composed ever since we'd come in from the yard, but now panic was creeping back into her voice. Just give me a minute, I said. I need to think. I plopped down onto the swivel chair. There was another way out, of course, through the second tunnel, up into the dummy house on the other side of the cul-de-sac, where my grandfather's white Chevrolet Caprice sat waiting in the garage. Then again, maybe the hollow would run outside the moment it heard the Caprice's motor and murder us before we could even back out of the driveway. More to the point, maybe I was not yet ready for the blind rush and perfect execution such an escape would require. It sounded like someone was jackhammering in the house. Maybe he'll get bored and leave, I said, half joking.
He's not going anywhere, except to get reinforcements.
She started pacing the narrow floor.
He's probably calling for backup right now.
I don't think hollows carry phones, or need reinforcements.
What's it doing here? Why are a white and a hologast at your grandfather's house?
Clearly, they were expecting us, I said. We're expecting someone. She leaned against the bunk bed, frowning and frustrated.
I thought Murnau was the last uncaptured white, and almost all the hollows were dead.
The Embrans said there were still some in hiding. Maybe there were more than they thought.
Well, they're not in hiding anymore. At least these two weren't, which means someone called them into service, which means
we don't know them, I said, reluctant to follow that line of reasoning. We don't know anything. She squared her shoulders to me.
Call's back, isn't he? Murnau succeeded, brought him back from wherever he was.
I shook my head. Couldn't meet her eyes. I don't know. Maybe. Her back slid down the bedpost until she was sitting on the floor, knees hugged to her chest.
I felt him, she said. Right before I blacked out. It was like a blanket of ice covering me.
and I saw him. Saw his face in the heart of the storm. But still, I said, we just don't know. Because I couldn't be certain, and because I didn't want to admit that such an awful thing was true until the truth of it was inescapable. She tipped her head to one side like something had just occurred to her, then jumped up and dug in her pocket. I found this in V's hand when I was wrapping her. She must have been holding it when she died. I stood up and she extended her hand. She held what appeared to be a damaged stopwatch. It had no hands and no numbers. Around the dial were strange symbols and what might have been runic letters, and the glass face was cracked and partially smoked over, as if it had been dropped into a fire. I took it from her and was surprised by its weight. On the back, in English, was stamped, "Single use only, 5-minute countdown, made in East Germany." An eject button, I said quietly, awe stealing over me. She must have had it in her pocket when we showed up, said Nor. Maybe she knew something was coming for her. I was nodding. Or maybe she always carried it with her, so she could be ready to escape at a moment's notice. Like a fugitive, I thought sadly. But it didn't work quickly enough. It says right here 5-minute countdown, so even if she'd hit the button the second Murnau came in. Nor looked past me, at the wall, at nothing. Fast enough to save us, I said, but too slow to save herself. I handed back the stopwatch. I'm sorry. She drew a shuddering breath, steadied herself, then shook her head. It doesn't make sense. She was a preparer, a planner, and she'd had years to plan for an invasion. She had that ejector watch, a house full of weapons. Yeah, she got taken by surprise, thanks to me, but I bet she had a plan for that too. Nor, Murnau shot her in the chest. How do you plan for that? She let it happen. I'm telling you, if she managed to dive out a window or something, his next move would have been to kill one of us, then use the other as a hostage. So instead, she let him shoot her. But her own heart was on Bentham's list of resurrection ingredients. She must have known that. I think it's the whole reason she locked herself in that loop, to keep the whites from stealing her heart. Letting Murnau kill her in order to save us would have endangered everyone. We were supposed to stop him. She wiped a smudge from the stopwatch with her thumb. But we failed. I started to object, but she cut me off. Look, this is pointless. There's nothing to do but warn the others. We've got to get back to Devil's Acre and tell them what happened. And soon. Finally, something we could agree on. I think I know how, I said. There's a pocket loop in the backyard of my parents' house. It connects directly to the Panlupticon inside the Acre. It's on the other side of town. Then we've got to go. Now. If it's still operational, I added. I guess we'll find out. There was a loud metal creak from the periscope. It spun suddenly on its tube, then raced upward and smashed against the ceiling. We dove out of the way as broken glass sprayed across the floor. So much for our surveillance system, Nor said. He's pissed, and he's not going anywhere. We'll just have to take our chances. We can afford to take chances with my life, I said. But if Call really is back, we can't take any chances with yours.
Oh, come on.
No, hear me out. If there's any truth to that prophecy, and by now I think we've got to believe there is, then you're the best hope we've got. Maybe the only hope.
You mean the 7 thing?
She frowned.
Me and 6 others, which who knows if they're even...
You're safe now, and I've got to keep you safe. V didn't sacrifice herself just so you could end up in a hollow gas stomach. I don't know how long we were unconscious. Hours, at least, maybe longer. So please, just wait another couple of minutes. And let's see whether this asshole gets bored of chewing on sod. Then we'll make our move. She crossed her arms.
Fine, but there's got to be some way to warn the others while we're waiting. Is there a phone? A radio?
She scanned the room.
What's that thing behind you?
She was talking about the teleprinter. It's obsolete, I said. Belongs in a museum.
Can it talk to the outside world?
Not anymore, I don't think. They used to use them to talk to other loops, but they weren't secure enough.
It's worth a shot.
Nora sat in the swivel chair and bellied up to the keyboard, which looked like it had been sawed off an old fax machine.
How do I turn it on?
No idea. She blew on the keyboard, puffing dust into the air, then punched a random key. The monitor stayed dark. She reached around the back of it, groped blindly, and flipped a switch. The monitor made a staticky pop, and a moment later, an amber cursor blinked to life. I'll be damned, I said. It works. A word appeared, a single word on a single line at the top of an otherwise black screen. Command. Nor whistled.
This thing is old.
Told you.
Where's the mouse?
I don't think they were invented yet. It wants you to type something. Nor typed warn. The machine bleeped unhappily. Command not recognized. Nor scowled. She typed mail. Command not recognized. Try directory, I said. She did. Nothing. And then she tried message, root, help, and loop. None of those worked either. Nor sat back in the chair.
I don't suppose your grandpa kept the instructions?
I went to the supply locker and poked through the books. Most were spiral-bound, soft-cover, homemade looking. A few were old mission logs belonging to my grandfather, and I promised myself to one day read them all. Between a worn-looking pamphlet titled So You Want to Build a Hollow Gas Shelter and a couple of the spy novels my grandfather liked to read was a laminated volume with a little bird insignia on the cover and 4 letters in red. FPEO. I had seen the same letters inside certain editions of the tales. 4 peculiar eyes only. I flipped it open. The inner title page read, Sindristoff Pneumatic Teleprinter, OS 1.5 Operating Instructions.
Nor, I got it!
I shouted so loudly that I startled her, though with half a second's reflection, I didn't know what I'd gotten so excited about. The thing was almost certainly disconnected from whatever network it had once been a part of. We pushed back the heavy keyboard to make room on the desk and opened the manual. From over our heads came a roar and another crash. The sound muted only slightly by 20 feet of dirt and reinforced concrete. I wondered how much of the house would be left standing after the hollow had finished with it. We attempted to ignore the apocalyptic noises and thumbed through the manual. In the table of contents was a chapter labeled Communications and Connectivity.
I flipped pages and read aloud while Nor typed. Try typing this, I said. Outgoing CC. She did. The cursor typed a reply. Outgoing communications unavailable. And here are some pictures. There is the pneumatic teleprinter manual. And there is, so you want to build a holocaust shelter. Right? I know, I want to read that book so bad. I'm like, yes, I would like to build a shelter. This is when I become a prepper. Oh, no. I read more commands to Nor. I wish it existed. She tried query outgoing CC. Yes, I did. The cursor blinked fast for a few seconds, then came back with CC lines cut. Damn it, she said. It was a long shot anyway, I said. This thing probably hasn't been used in decades. She slapped the desk and got up from the chair. We can't wait down here much longer. That hollow isn't going to just leave voluntarily. I was starting to think she was right, that the beast would never leave, that eventually whoever had sent the yellow-jacketed man would notice he hadn't returned and come to check on him, that every minute we hid down here was a minute stolen from our allies in the Acre, who could have been making plans for escape from or defense against whatever onslaught Call was no doubt preparing. If I protected Nor only to let my friends be slaughtered in a surprise attack, was that any victory at all? Maybe. Maybe it was in the coldest possible calculus, because Call was a threat, not just to the peculiars I loved, but all peculiar kind, and really, to the world. Then again, my friends were my world. I was about to say, screw it, let's go, when I heard Nor mutter, holy shit! She had returned to the desk and was bent over the ancient monitor. The cursor had typed something of its own volition. 2 lines of amber text. Threat detected. Activate home defense. Y/N. Nor did not wait, did not ask my opinion. Her index finger stabbed the Y button. The screen blanked. I thought for a moment it had shut down, had just been teasing us. But then the cursor reappeared and drew a new screen. No, yes or no? Come on, you knew that. Here, hold on. Look at this layout. It was a map of the house, crudely drawn in keyboard characters. The map was divided into 12 zones, marked F1 through F12. 8 zones for the house and 4 for the yard. There were 12 function keys on the keyboard. A cursor blinked, waiting at the bottom of the screen. What do you think they do? Nor said. Shoot fireballs? Open trapdoors? In a suburban retirement community? She shrugged. Let's find out. Her finger hovered over the function keys. I think it's still above us? I felt the hollow's proximity, but couldn't sense exactly where he was. I went to the periscope,
what was left of it, and pulled it down again. Through the viewer's cracked glass, I saw a distorted rendering of the yard. The hollow had stomped down the grass enough for me to glimpse the house and the street beyond, but there was no sign of him. I rotated in a circle. My view raked the yard, past a fallen tree and a downed power line sparkling on the sidewalk to the neighbor's roofless house. And then I felt my inner compass needle flicker and heard the beast howl, sharp and loud, as the periscope yanked violently upward, knocking me to the ground before it smashed against the ceiling again. Nora leapt out of the chair and rushed to me. "Oh my God, are you okay?" "It's right above us," I shouted. She helped me up and we stumbled to the computer together. "What part of the yard is that?" she said, peering at the monitor. I tapped the screen. "I think it's that side?" Nora rested her finger on the corresponding key, F10. "Mind if I do the honors?" "Yes, no, just push it." She pushed it. At first, nothing happened. Then the walls around us began to rattle, and there was a sound like the creak of some giant old radiator, and a moment later there was a deafening boom, and the room shook. The bunk bed fell over, and everything we hadn't taken out of the supply closet went flying onto the floor. The compass needle inside me spun. I couldn't tell how hurt the hollow-ghast was, but I was sure it had been thrown some distance by whatever had just happened above ground, which meant... "We got it!" I shouted. Nora cautiously uncovered her head. "Is it dead?" "It's hurt, I think. Not dead, but let's not stick around to find out." I ran to the wall and started prying open the door that was partially hidden beside the supply cabinet. "Another exit," I explained. "This leads to a different house and a car we can use." "What about V?" Nor said. I tried to imagine dragging her body down tunnels and up ladders while an injured and furious hollow-ghast chased us. But then Nor seemed to read my mind without me having to explain, and she shook her head and muttered, "Never mind." "We'll come back," I assured her. She didn't say anything, just dug her fingers into the door jamb and started to pull. Now, that is the end of chapter 2. We still got 25 minutes, but that would kind of rush chapter 3, I feel. We can go ahead and stop there for the day, because it's like 20 pages long and I don't want to rush. I don't want to rush through this. It's the last book. We should savor it a little bit. I thought that would take longer. I thought that would take longer. But how do we feel so far about the beginning of the end? ten ambiance tunes. Thank you. I was looking for the perfect, like, I was sitting there and I was like, no, that's not right. No, I don't want to do rain again. It's gotta be Oh yeah, it starts immediately. Like, there was no waiting around. Same. Spent so much time looking for V in the last book, only to have her immediately, yeah. It's upsetting. It doesn't feel fair, and I think that's the point. I like Velya and Noor Pradesh as characters. Um, Especially like with the previous book, there was a lot of like I like that we had like POC characters who were like living in like the loop time frame. Like that was a really interesting having a main character as in Noor Pradesh because it breaks the mold of like because for most of the series it kind of leads up to like Jacob's the chosen one and then it's like no it's this girl the Indian girl like I like that for like the swerve because all the main characters are the chosen one and then it's like no I'm just dating her I'm just dating the chosen one and I like that as a format and for it to be to be a person of color as like a good swerve. It's like, oh no, you thought about the standard white guy was the protect. No, hard left, and I like that a lot in a format, and I think like that gives Noor depth instead of just being like, oh, here's another peculiar for no, she has her own story of like loss and grief and her own like in her relationship with her foster family. It gives a really good background for her as like not a main character that Jacob can relate to but not completely. Like there's still things in he at least had a very privileged upbringing. His family had plenty of money. His parents weren't the nicest, like, but they weren't terrible people. Noor grew up in an apartment with foster parents who clearly do not care about her. That added a lot of depth to Noor as a person. And she has her own. She had a hard life before this happened. Jacob didn't. Jacob kind of did not. Jacob was fine. His parents had money. The only reason he had a job was because he was told he needed to get a job. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had one. Like, that was it. And I think to give them, like, a diversified background like that, I really appreciate that. I really like Noor Pradesh as a character. Exactly. Thank you. I do too. Because even though we know like a significant portion of the other kids' backstories, Enoch growing up in the funeral home, and Emma and her parents, Noor's is so fleshed out in a way that is very relatable to like modern day children. It's not, Bronwyn killing. It's not that. They're all very like they were used to. They were the mine children. The old like the children yearn for the mines. Like they all had jobs when they were like 5 because they grew up at a time where people were having children for labor. And they had a very different experience to Jacob and the rest of any modern day child. Like they were breathing like lead insulation and stuff like that. They are like very much in a very different time. Like to the point where they almost can't even relate to Jacob or Noor as people. Noor Pradesh, in the same way, is very different from Jacob and very different from the other kids in a way that Jacob also cannot relate to and cannot completely appreciate. And that gives a whole lot of difference of perspective and a lot of how the way the kids like view and deal with each other, as well as the way that Noor and Jacob like interact. Because notice like Jacob has like a different tone when he's talking to Noor sometimes than when he's talking with the other children. It's because she's more relatable. She's a modern day teenager where she'll curse and she's like, holy shit, like, you want to talk about call it? They interact in a very different way. They still have modern day aspirations. The other kids don't. Like, they don't have that level of, they can't even quantify the depth of what school is for them. Which makes it, and I think it's very well written in that way. It's very fun for me. Yeah, like Lily, like, is a disabled character who is not disabled, who is perfectly able to function on her own, which a lot of disabled people, like, are more capable than most people think that they are. And I think a lot of disabled people are like treated as if they are like broken and need help with everything. And I used to take care of a blind woman and she was very high functioning. She just needed to hold your hand, but she had great spatial awareness, more than you would think. She knew exactly where everything was, even if someone moved it. Like, a lot of the time she would be able to navigate, like, I was taking her to, like, shopping to Walmart at one point, and she did kind of walk slow, but someone straight up accused her of not being blind based on the fact that she was walking in a straight line and not, like, and I'm like, she doesn't have a bum foot. Her eyes don't work. Like, what do you mean? And physical disability doesn't mean mental. It doesn't mean, yeah. And it's a wholly different experience. And I like the way that they made Lily as a character too, of like, she knows where she's going. There are a number of deaf people at my work. Oh yeah. Like, and I think for people who are also like, who have been living with their disability for a longer amount of time, like they're either born disabled or they got their disability when they were younger, they're a lot more capable of like learning and adapting to it than I think older folks are. It's going to make a huge difference if you're Lily's age and you're blind, or you're, you know, in your 50s and you become blind. And I think there's like a big difference. But most disabilities are not completely disabling. And I think that people have this view, like ableist people have this view that if you aren't completely incapacitated, it's not a disability. And that's not true. That's not true. Even most mental disabilities can be yeah. No, I agree with you. And as like an able-bodied person, I'm not the best person to speak on any of this. But I do like how Lily was written. And I like the fact that she knew Millard was invisible before. Like, she can't even see, and she was like, "No, I knew. No, I'm aware." I just like Lily and Noor Pradesh as characters. Lily had Toph vibes for sure. She's like this grungy art kid, kind of hipstery, but not like in a gross way. You know what I mean? I love it. I love her as a character. It's a very fun book. We need more Lily. Exactly. I wished so hard when I was originally reading through this. I was like, why can't Lily come? I was like, I know Lily can't come, but I'm like, also like, why can't Lily come? I feel like they're great friends, and they need to stay friends. They need to go together. It just made it so much more fun for me. A Lily and Millard love story. I like that, like, Millard is just very like side adventures of Lily happening while she's on super. I also feel like Lily is like probably the height of like, let's see what I can get away with while I can pretend to be blind. You know what I mean? With all these whites at the school, you know what I mean? Getting up to stuff and then being like, I'm blind, I can't go anywhere, I don't know what you're talking about. I feel like it would be like weaponized in a way that would be very fun. I feel like she'd be very good at that. And also be like really nice guy, good kid. You know what I mean? Like, do you ever have like someone you knew in like school or whatever that was the worst kid, but like when staff was involved, they were like, this kid is a good kid. You know what I mean? Like staff, no matter what, was like, this is a good child, and they would get away with everything. I feel like that would be great with Lily, but with whites. I got away with much. What does that mean? Why would you say it like that? What do you mean? If you committed crimes, don't admit it on this in this live. But depends on which staff members we're talking about. Well, I just knew I had a kid that I knew in high school that anytime anything happened, they never suspected him, and it was 9 times out of 10 him. Why they dragged me into their plans, but it was my plan. See, that was the thing, is like, I knew someone who never... I know someone who never got in trouble for anything. You know what I mean? Like, they would always do stuff to us and then never get caught. And then I'd be like, Kyle did that. And then like they'd be like, Kyle, no, Kyle wouldn't do that. What the? I was Kyle, sorry. No, Kyle was Kyle. Kyle was Kyle. Thanks, Corey. I blocked him. But yeah, no, we used to have this joke that just Kyle was responsible for anything bad that had happened because he never got caught for any of the stuff he did. I can't even remember completely any one instance. I just know that he never got blamed for any of the stuff, and more than half the time it was his idea. Like, I know one time he gassed Spencer up like a whole lot, and then got him to I don't even know how he did this, to like shove a bunch of like jalapenos up his nose or something, and it ended very badly. And then when like staff came around and was like, what is going on? And like started writing everybody up but Kyle. And I was like, I was just reading. I wasn't even doing anything over here. And yeah, no, it was like stupid stuff. It was like stupid stuff. I know he like... Actually, I can't remember if that was him. It probably was him. I'm going to go ahead and double down and say that it was his fault. But I think someone stole something from our friend group, and then he was like, I'm going to get it back. And then he broke into this kid's locker, and got it back. And I don't even know how he broke in there. I know it was with blunt force. Like, he did damage to the locker. That was just the kind they'd have to amend the handbook for because it's not against the rules the first time. I never even did a whole lot, but because of that one spork incident, I was always included in the assumption that it was my fault. Oh, yeah. No, look, I used to have anger issues. And now, I warned him 3 times that I was going to stab him with a spork. And then I stabbed him with a spork. It was a plastic spork. I don't know if they even make metal sporks. Unless it's for, like, MREs. Anyway, but it was a plastic spork from Taco Bell. I had Taco Bell. And I stabbed this kid in the neck. I warned him 3 times to stop bothering me. And he didn't. And so I stabbed him in the neck with a spork. And that was very early on in high school, like freshman year. In the very beginning. And this changed my entire relationship with this kid. This kid avoided me the rest of high school. And I just didn't even notice. I didn't know until like after high school when I was like at a county fair with my friend Spencer. And then we ran into this kid. And he practically ran in the opposite direction when and I thought it was weird because there was no warning sign. He was just talking to Spencer, and Spencer was like, "Oh, hey," and he was like, "Hey," and then he started walking, and then he turned right back the fuck around and almost jogged in the other direction, and I was like, "What was that about?" And he was like, "You did stab it," and I was like, "Did I?" And he was like, "Did you forget that you with a sport?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that was the sport kid," and I just forgot. And that, I wasn't, like, super violent, but I did not like people upsetting me, or bothering me. This was very early on in high school, before I even had friends. And then I was always included, even after, like, I kind of calmed down in high school, and I was less defensive. Mainly because I had a lot going on in school. And I had previously been to a school. I didn't go to high school in the same area. You know how most of the people from high school, that they stay in the same place, they came from the same middle school? I didn't come from the same middle school. I had changed schools about 4 times. And I came from a school that was a public school in an inner city, let's put it that way, and moved to a very rural area, country, high school. So the same problems that were prevalent in like an inner city high school were not the same kinds of problems that you would have in a rural high school. Kids were a lot more physically violent in an inner city. I had like incidents in this middle school, at the tail end of middle school, where kids were not nice physically. And then in high school, I took that same energy with me to a rural county high school where kids just didn't really have that problem. It was small. Most of the kids had known each other from grade school. Like, nobody moved. I was the new kid. And I'd come from a school where everybody was your enemy. Like, you were friends with people only so far as you could throw them. Like, they would throw you under the bus. They would plant drugs in your locker. It was just, like, it was not a great place for my development especially. And so I took this same energy, and then literally within the first week of me being at this school, I stabbed this kid with a spork. And that did not go well. And I realized very quickly I was not in the same place that I was. Like, this was a different environment. Kids didn't do that here. I didn't need to worry about defending myself in that way. I didn't need to worry about being perceived like as weak or because I was shorter, like, you know what I mean? I didn't need to worry about that at this school. And so after a while I like made friends, or friends made me, I'm not sure. And then like they were just like, that was the wildest shit that anybody has ever seen. And I was like, why? I had seen so much worse at this other school. And so I was just like, why? Like, I didn't understand until it was more survival, I think, than anger. Yeah, I think the wildest thing that ever happened in like this rural high school was two girls got in a cat fight. Same diff. But like the worst thing, I don't know if anybody needs a trigger for physical violence, but like the worst thing that had happened in my inner city middle school was a kid tried to cut another kid's finger off. He didn't completely sever it, but we had to stop science and have this kid in an ambulance, like, to leave. We had to call, the cops were involved, everything got stopped. Like, we didn't have science. And our school was like so messed up. Like, a lot of these kids were like so messed up that they were just like, yeah, we miss science, we don't have to go to science. And I was like, this is the upside? Is this your... I think that's the least of our problems, is that that's not the energy we should have, is that we all get out of science. And I'm like the one kid that's like, I was really looking forward to class today. But I'm like super worried about the kid that got, but you can't say that. You can't be worried. That's not the energy we have at this school, so you stay quiet about it. Like, that's not, yeah. So, like, it was very much a different environment. We had the school with, like, metal detectors going in and around. Now I think all schools have them. But, like, this was, like, back in the early 2000s. Something like that. Not a lot of schools had metal detectors. We had metal detectors. This was not long after 9/11. So it was not... Most schools didn't have metal detectors. Had worse at my city schools, worse at my rural. Was a psychotic break because no sleep 5 days. Yeah. Yeah, no, like, the city schools were so much worse. And it just depended on where you went, where your location was, and, like, what kind of school it was. Not to trigger anybody if this is a thing for anybody, but, like, it really depends on where you're from and how bad your school system is. And at the time, I was just like, well, gotta go to school. Like, and I'm not super sure if my mom, like, knew of even how bad it was. Like, I don't ever think I really even talked to her about it, because most of the time she worked 3 jobs and she was so busy, and I was just like, she won't care. Like, so I was just like, she probably knows. I don't need to tell her. And I'm like, and I don't even know if my mom ever knew. Now that I think back on it, my mom might have been like, maybe I should get her out of this school. But probably not. I don't even know. But I know I had a lot of quote unquote behavioral issues with staff, like, my first few weeks there. And then afterward I was like, oh, I don't need to worry about that. I can calm down. I think the worst thing that happened at our school, super rural, was that a kid got expelled because he forgot. Oh, it was deer season and he just forgot it. Yeah. That's the thing, is like, you got a bunch of rural kids. Like, the worst you gotta deal with is like, their senior prank is driving a tractor up to the back. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? It's not anywhere on the level. I wasn't so much as like scared until I was more scared in my 20s than I ever was in school. But I was not in the best headspace at that point. Hot mess in high school, though. I feel that. I was also a hot mess, just in a very different way. I was very much like, I have to make sure no one talks to me. Like, in... That's a funny senior prank. I don't even remember what ours was. That's how involved I was in like, the community student body. I don't even know. I was like, I'm not even sure I was invited to. I don't even think. It's so funny. I don't even think I got invited to the reunion. I don't think anybody remembered. I didn't drive till I was 19. So I started driving, like, I think a year late is when it was. You had your compass incident. I stayed out of that and just sequestered in the band hall. I didn't even have band. I like had my group of friends in like, when I had to join an extracurricular, which was sophomore year, they were really pushing extracurriculars. They're like, this will look good on your college application. You had to pick one extracurricular, and I ended up just doing what Spencer did, which was theater. That was a huge mistake. I volunteered at the library for 3 periods a day. God, I tried to do that and I didn't get the position in the library. Instead, I was a teacher's assistant for the English teacher. But yeah, anyway, it is past 10, you guys. We made it all through the live. We started our new book. We'll be back here again next week. Just trucking through the rest of the series, so that's going to be really fun. And yeah, we got to do cat facts really quick. I almost forgot about cat facts. How could I forget that? All right. We're going to go with the La Perm. That's great, Swiftblood. I like that. All right. The La Perm is a new breed founded in the Pacific Northwest when a talented mouse catcher had a litter that included one curly kitten. This cat has been officially bred for less than 30 years. There are long hair and short hair La Perm cats, and all have the slightly coarse, curly hair that gives the breed its name. The long hair La Perms look fluffy because of their curls, but their coats are light, airy, and fine rather than plush. These cats usually have no undercoat. Some purebred La Perms are born with straight hair, and some have curlier hair than average. The La Perm's cat's progenitor had been selectively bred for a job rather than its appearance, so resulting La Perm cats come in every coloration possible, with dozens that are defined by show guidelines and a category for none of the above. The body type of the La Perm is more standard, with a medium size and build and long, fine limbs. Because the breed is so new, guidelines often allow it to be outcrossed or crossbred with classic short hair or long hair cats, at least until 2020. Doing this for as long as possible allows the breed to diversify its genes and helps to prevent any future health problems. La Perm cats are bright, agile, and light on their feet. Some believe them to be hypoallergenic as a result of their special coat and reduced layers of undercoat. Look at that baby. So fluffy. It's a fluffy baby. As always, I heavily encourage you to go look up all the cat breeds because they're adorable. And we will be back here next week with more book, more cat facts. And I will see you guys next week at 8 Central to read more of the book. And I will be playing... I think we're still playing Dredge. I haven't caught all the fish, but we can do something else. In any case, I'm going to go ahead and start the game stream here in a few minutes, so I'll see you there. And if not, I will see you next week. Thank you all for joining me. Kitten Pick posting the cats food. Thank you. And I hope you all have a great night regardless.